Welcome back to this week's episode of the Black and Blue Soccer Show with Andrew and Joey. Now, before we get started, there was a horrific tragedy that took place last week. There was the massive earthquake, I guess technically it was multiple earthquakes that impacted Turkey, Syria, in that general area. Right now, it looks like there's a confirmed over 30,000 people dead. It's just unreal. I can't imagine having to go through something like that and having family that you don't know if they're alive or okay or anything. Just awful situation. And then as far as the soccer world goes, beloved Christian Atsu, it does not look good for him. There were multiple reports early that he had been found, but those were confirmed to be, as you would say, fake news. Horrific scenes. Andrew, anything you want to say about it?
No, it was completely awful, and unfortunately, it happened at the worst possible time in the worst possible season in the middle of the night in winter in a part of Turkey where it does get below freezing. And also, it affected Syria, but you don't hear too much about that due to sanctions and everything. But their rescue efforts are just as poor as it is in southern Turkey.
Yep. All right, and to more news of the week. It is the Super Bowl is happening right now. I actually believe the halftime show is either just finishing up or still going on. So for us Americans, it's pretty much a national holiday. You go out and about town, and there's like nothing going on because everyone's out watching the Super Bowl. But honestly, I don't really care about it anymore. I had it on earlier just to watch the commercials. Um, Other than that, I don't really care. And then there's more balloons. Andrew, did you see that there were multiple balloons going through the United States and Canada this past week?
I did. I saw. Yeah, I don't know if there's like we used to have the Freedom Weekend Aloft here in upstate South Carolina. So I don't know if there's a balloon show going on or what is going down. But apparently there's been a UFO sighted off the coast of China now. So maybe there's even more balloons floating around in the atmosphere.
Yeah,
So yeah, kind of just a weird week. And one thing to note about the Super Bowl is tomorrow is the national holiday because everyone will call out sick.
yeah, that's right. um, no, the balloon thing is interesting because I think there were two shot down today. Either that or it was like one was yesterday, one was today. And they didn't confirm that they were more balloons, but you know, everyone's like, yeah, it's just another balloon. So I don't know, interesting. Other than that, anything fun or cool happened this past week for you?
Uh, no, not really. Been a quiet week. Ran a few 5Ks. Um, that's just it's just been rainy here, so just working on the treadmill.
Yep, brutal. All right, so let's get into the past week's matches. Well, the caveat to that is there's still one match tomorrow, the Merseyside Derby. um, but yeah, so Andrew, just give us a little recap of what went down this past week.
Sure. So on Wednesday, we got started off right with a kind of exciting 2-2 draw between Manchester United and Leeds United. Interesting to note, Leeds United did carry a 2-0 lead in a large part of this game, but they let Man United back in and came out with a draw. Probably Man United, they're a team that is not great. They're very similar to Newcastle in the fact that They're not playing the greatest in the world, but they're finding ways to get it done. And when you're a bad team like Leeds, I mean, you find ways to, you know, snatch defeat from victory.
Yeah, so in that match and in the match that we'll just talk about in a little bit, early on, Leeds were absolutely dominating Man United. Um, in the first match, it was the midfield. McKinney and Tyler Adams were just had Man United locked down, and it was pretty fun to watch. You know, as an American, the match from today was a little bit different, but um, yeah. And then of course Marsh, as a result of the match on Wednesday, got the boot. No, wait, what? I'm sorry. Was he already fired then?
Yes, he was already fired. This was
Dadgummit, yeah.
the backroom staff.
Yeah, so honestly, it didn't look like much had changed in the style of play. Um, Instead of the all out pressing, it does look like they were more strategic with it, but still, like, if you're going to play that pressing style, you got to have better players. You just can't, like I've mentioned this a million times. If you have one little mishap, it'll cost you the match, and it's proven itself out this whole season.
And since you mentioned it, Joey, Leeds United still doesn't have a replacement manager lined up. They were turned down by Areola from Rayo Vallecano in La Liga. Couldn't talk to him, and the Feyenoord coach Sloot said he was not interested at all. So the search continues on for the next Leeds United coach, and they really need it, especially if Everton come out with a result. They're going to be down in the bottom.
Yeah, no love lost here. I the way I've seen Leeds fans act from the beginning of the season, I am not sad to see them go down.
Yep. And stay tuned for when we talk about the Southampton Wolves game. There might be a twist in this story. But on to proper match day 23, the first game of the weekend, early morning here in the States, was West Ham Chelsea. Ended up in a 1-1 draw. Joey, our resident Chelsea fanatic, what were your opinions?
Honestly, I was okay with it. I really would have preferred a victory, but I'll take what I can get. The main thing to come out of this match were a lot of the new signings look pretty decent. So Mudrick is the one that kind of looks still a bit iffy, but to be fair, that whole left side didn't really do anything at all. Him and Kukurea had no cohesion whatsoever. They looked like they didn't understand their role in the squad. So Kukurea would be in a position where he should overlap, but it seemed like he was wary to because of how Mudrik wasn't tracking back at all. And then and then when Mudrik did track back, and he actually made some really good defensive actions later on, in while he was in there, then Kukurea, he refused to go forward and refused to try to make any forward passes. So it's just an interesting situation. Um, Potter has mentioned that Kukurea has some stuff going on in his personal life, so I can understand if that's impacting him a little bit. But it's getting to the point now where he just hasn't looked good all season. So at some point, we might just need to not play him for a while. Then Mudrick needs time to settle in. But Yao Felix looks great. He looks amazing. He looks like the only um, new incoming player that is just ready made for the Premier League. Enzo, you could make the same argument for him, but Felix is like even better. I am excited to watch him going forward, and really hope that he does well enough that Chelsea will go in the summer and make the move permanent. Otherwise, you know, There was one defensive mishap on uh, um, it was Kukurea again, not performing well. He let in a cross by not closing down. I forget who the gentleman was, but he just didn't close the guy down at all. Let a cross go in. It flashed across the 6 yard box and hit a wide open Emerson. So there were multiple individual mistakes on that play, and game is so thin margins that when that type of thing happens, it can be costly. Chelsea also had two more goals disallowed because of offsides. Neither one of them were, that close. They were both clear offsides. Off air, we talked about how these offside decisions they took a little bit longer to be determined than some others that we'll talk about later. But no controversy there. And the other thing that happened, which we will definitely talk about later, is right towards the end of the match, in extra time, I guess Conor Gallagher had a shot that he kind of scuffed, and good old what's his name?
Suchek.
Yeah, Suchek dove on the ball and made a great save. It was like watching Kepa out there dive on a ball. But from my perspective, it was obvious handball, and it just wasn't called. Otherwise, yeah, like I said, I'm okay with the result. Not happy, but I'll accept it.
And if you're a West Ham fan, you're probably thrilled to get out with a 1-1 as you also lost Lucas Paqueta early on. Looks like it may be a shoulder injury when he went down. And then unfortunately, Agurd, again, looks like he's going to be out for a little bit due to a hamstring injury. And that's one of the reasons why West Ham's defense has tightened up here recently is him coming back into the team. So losing those two players, they'll be happy with a point, but in the end, moving them forward, they still got a lot of work to do. So on to the next match of the weekend. It was the other one of the other West London teams, Fulham, at home, beat Nottingham Forest 2-0. This game had a banger of a goal by ex Chelsea man William. Did you see that goal?
Yeah, it was great. Willian, he always frustrated me as a Chelsea player because he would be like consistently inconsistent, where he would score. Him and Pedro both. They would score some amazing goals and do some crazy acrobatic stuff, and then just like disappear. But I'm glad to see him finding success in Fulham.
Yep. So a good result for Fulham. They beat a very informed Nottingham Forest team. So they're on the cusp of the European places. If they continue, they're one of the few teams, in the top half of the table to actually win this weekend. So, team to be watching out for.
Yeah, that on Fulham, they look like they're playing really well together as a squad. Um, something I wish Chelsea had, but Fulham, I definitely they're ones to look out for.
And then in the next game of the week was kind of an interesting game if you only watched the first 10 to 15 minutes. We had Spurs up at Leicester City. They went up 1-0 and then proceeded to allow 4 goals. So, final score on that one was Leicester City 4, Tottenham 1. This game is notable because it looks like Bentancur is out for the season. And this joins Lloris being out 6 to 8 weeks. And Joey, let's face it, his replacement, Forster, doesn't even look championship material. 3 of those goals that were allowed were really, really poor. Leicester, they did have one amazing strike. Uh, let's see who was. I think it was Mendy's strike was really good, but the other ones, yeah, I don't understand what he was doing. So it looks like Spurs, Conte returning to the touchline. Maybe he should have stayed out a little bit longer.
Yeah. Real quick note on this. Good friend of the pod. Is it Maro? I don't know how it's
All right.
properly.
Yeah.
Um, he made some bad life choices and put some money down on all the quote big London clubs, and I think this one probably hurt him the most. Tottenham just got run over by darn Leicester of all clubs, but um, as far as Forster goes, like yes, he had a shocking performance, but for Tottenham to be in a position where they're giving up that many goal like shot opportunities from especially a Conte coach team, that's not where you want to be. Um, it's just so funny. Like pull up the definition of Spursy for me. Like you go from beating Man City and looking dominant to this, and I don't know what else you can say about them.
Yep. Uh, we'll see. I mean, next week, let's see who do they have. They when is their next game? Who knows? They're gonna end up pumping. They play West Ham, so probably pump them 5-0. It's just the nature of the team at the moment. And then the next game of the weekend had the leaders Arsenal. Brentford was visiting, and the other West London team pulled out a draw. Uh, Controversial draw, be it. We'll talk about it later. But Tony equalized in the latter half of the game to bring Brentford level and kept it until the full time. And Arsenal again is dropping points. So other than the controversial offsides, which we'll talk about later, any thoughts on this game, Joey?
Not really. I didn't really find much enjoyment out of this match other than Arsenal dropping points. Um, the Arsenal this is one thing that I was saying that when we made our top four predictions is that I don't believe that they can or that they have proved to be consistent enough to be able to um, just be a shoe in as the league winners. So after then these next few weeks, if they don't start getting back on track, then I definitely expect Man City to overtake them. But next week they could come out and just thrash whoever they play next. Who is it?
Aston Villa.
Okay, well, no, they play City. They play City this week on
Oh, they
Wednesday.
have they have a midweek
That's right.
game. That is
Yeah.
correct.
So, um, it's very possible they may show up against City and take care of business because City doesn't look like amazing either. So we'll see. But like I said, I don't have full faith that they'll be able to keep it up. Um, but I would not be surprised to be wrong.
Mhm. And then the next game, we had Brighton, who's fighting for a European place, visited Crystal Palace. Game ended in a 1-1 draw. Looks like there's again controversy on this game that we'll talk to about later, dealing with the offsides. Good point for Palace. That's really all I have. I mean, they're just meddling along, collecting points, staying off the bottom. Any thoughts, Joey?
No, not until we talk about the other controversy with this match later.
Sure. Uh, and then before the final game of Saturday, we had Southampton at home facing Wolves. This was a must win for head coach Nathan Jones. They went up 1-0, and Wolves had a player sent off, actually, former Southampton man, Lamela, uh, Lamina, and they looked like they were cruising, and they let own goal. Let's really bad own goal. Let's Wolves back in. Uh, Joey, I think, has a good tweet about it. Let Wolves back in at 1-1, and then Wolves snatched victory from. the Saints, and in the end cost Nathan Jones his job. So, any thoughts, Joey?
Well,
You
first of
know,
all, I don't think there's anything that you can say about Southampton other than they're just bad. Like they're really bad. Um, but for the Wolves' perspective, like what 2 weeks ago they had scored what was it 12 or 13 goals all season,
yep.
and then here in 2 matches they have 5 goals between the two, albeit two of them are own goals, but still like that's a pretty crazy turnaround. I do not have faith whatsoever that it'll last, but it's cool to see them get some success here and there.
I think they've dragged themselves out of the relegation fight though these last few weeks.
Yeah, I think so. Because even here, if they just kind of like hit a little bit of a slump or whatever, I don't I don't think Southampton or Bournemouth or Leeds are gonna overtake them.
Yeah. So, and then Joe, do you want to talk about Southampton's coaching search now or at the end?
Yeah, we can go ahead and mention it now. The one thing that I'll note is that obviously Leeds fired Marsh, and it came out today that Southampton were possibly looking at bringing him in. I that would be an ultimate train wreck in my opinion, but I don't know. They can do whatever the heck they want. I don't really care.
Yeah, I don't think he's a firefighting coach, despite Rafinha keeping them up last year. It's looking more and more like Southampton's going back down to the championship. So, maybe they see Marsh as the coach that can bring them up from the championship. Maybe that's why you appoint him. Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I mean, feel bad for their fans. But we move on to the final game of Saturday. It had my team visiting the South Coast in Bournemouth. Eddie Howe, first time back as an opposing manager. Um, and this game kind of went how all Newcastle games have gone in the past few post World Cup era. We went down, which we don't usually go down early on, but then we claw back. We got a goal back right before the end of half. A nice finish by Almiron, and then second half, nothing happens. So we end the game with another draw, and so right now, injuries are starting to catch up with us. Wilson was not able to make the trip down. I also believe Jamal Lascelles was injured, so we were missing, another squad player. Obviously, he wouldn't start. We had a 16-year-old on the bench. That shows you how deep our squad is. At least it's not three goalkeepers like in the past. But we are really lacking depth at the moment. Unfortunately, it looks like Joe Willock could be out for a little bit with a hamstring injury. And Alan St. Maximin and Almiron, their injuries are not expected to be severe. ASM's injury was really unique to me because his other ones I've been able to call when I've seen them. This one was weird. He had a weird landing, but then he grabbed his knee, so I'm not entirely sure what happened. It was toward the end of the game. ASM does tend to, I'm gonna get myself into trouble, embellish things a little bit. Obviously, I believe he was injured, but everyone that knows ASM knows that he'll take full advantage of any minor knock. And then Almiron's injury, I'm not sure if it's been diagnosed yet. At worst, it might be a fractured wrist or some bone in the wrist. He got stomped on and then got a knee to the head all in the same um, play. And unfortunately, he had to come out. He was, doing really well actually for us. So that was, bad to see. But hopefully he's back in the goals. We need someone to be back in the goals. And other than that, we didn't create enough chances. It would, you know, the best chance in the second half came from Bournemouth, and it was a clearance off the line by Trippier, who was responsible again for the goal scored. So 2 games in a row, two Trippier um, mistakes lead to the other team scoring. So good thing he saved himself with that clearance off the line. Otherwise, I'd be pretty upset, as Joey knows in our Discord. I'm a little concerned about the age of our fullbacks. I think Burn and Trippier are starting to wear down as the season goes on. Burn was just toasted by Watara this weekend, and yeah, it's kind of a concern for us moving forward. There's ways to look at it. Drawing's not losing, but then again, drawing isn't winning, and it's not moving us forward really. Although this weird season has everyone else drawing, so it may work out. We definitely won't take top four if we keep drawing. We'll definitely fall into the Europa places. And but we need wins. Like as I always say, statistically, it's better to win and lose than it is to draw. You'll end up with way more points that way. Um, right now we're on the same number of wins, I believe, as Brentford and Fulham. It's only our draws that's keeping us up there. So if we would have lost half those draws and won the other half, we'd be like way, we'd be 8, 9 points better. So we'll see. But it is a Newcastle. It's a club tied a club record for unbeaten at 17, and they'll be put on the line here this next weekend as we get to invite Liverpool in. Um, so will we set a new club record? We'll see. At least we're catching Liverpool at a seemingly good time.
Yep.
Um,
Well, real quick for you guys, I think one of the things that will help you against Liverpool and seems to have been a great signing for you is Nick Pope. From what I've been able to see, he's saved you guys a bunch.
oh yeah, he. I mean, yeah, the goals he's allowed these last two weekends, not his fault. They come off of mistakes of other people. And he made one great save in the first half. I think he dived into his left off of a header that was kind of took a weird. The game was kind of weird. I think I mentioned Discord. Like the ball was just skipping around and skidding, and the pitch was really wet. It was just a unique game. But yeah, he made a great save. And then the one off the line, he made a great save to the initial save, and then Trippier, luckily thank God was like right there to clear it. So. Any other thoughts moving forward on Newcastle or Bournemouth, Joey?
Nah, let's keep it going.
Okay. And then, so today, the early game, as Joey has already referenced, Manchester United went up to Leeds and won 2-0. Um, they, this is, as Joey's already mentioned, this game, Leeds looked like they might get something. But then around, 80th minute, again, something Newcastle can learn to do: play bad but still win. They bang in 2 goals and walk away with 3 points. And Leeds again gets nothing from not a horrible showing, but you know, uh, when you're a bad team, these are the things that happen to you. So that's like the counter argument that Newcastle fans would use. Like at least we're not like losing. So, um, you know,
Yep.
um,
Well, so for United's sake, he just seems great. Um, he's been doing so much better this season than he has in the past. Um, as Ten Hag after the match said that he believes Rashford is amazingly talented, and that he believes he can get even more out of Rashford than what he's getting now. And if that's true, yikes! I do not want to be anywhere near them. And then also Garnacho um, got their second goal, and in his brief appearance today, he looked good too. Um, they, I'm like, ever since Ten Hag like really started getting stuff going, I do not look forward to facing against United. Um, and then on the other side, just poor Leeds. Like, I feel so bad for their fans because
You
with the,
don't.
I mean, I don't because like knew this was going to happen, but I do because like I can, I guess, understand and empathize with what they're going through. Like they were so excited and pumped for the season to get going, and no matter what they go through, they'll lose three or four in a row, but they still maintain that hope and belief. And I think I'm finally starting to see on Twitter some of their fans realize like, oh crap, we're screwed.
Yep. Once I mean, you dedicate all those resources to Marsh's, style of play. It's going to be hard. I mean, it's going to be hard trying to find a coach that can utilize the players they went out and bought money for. So it was kind of if they were going to make that decision, they should have made it before the transfer window. That's, all I'll
Yeah.
say on that.
Real quick, I also want to mention McKinney. So in the midweek match, McKinney actually looked pretty decent. Him and I mentioned earlier that the Leeds midfield in that match kind of just shut down United. Today it wasn't quite the same. I had some little conversation with some Leeds fans, I guess yesterday, asking them what they thought about McKinney in the midfield, and they don't seem to be convinced that he can work as a double pivot with him and Adams being, responsible for staying in front of the defense. And today, that basically played out exactly how they were thinking. It looks like McKinney needs the extra midfielder to kind of control the match. Um, so I don't if they don't change their tactics or McKinney doesn't start improving, I think um, the optimism around him will fade very quickly.
Yep. He needs to lay off the pies. But so last match of the today saw Aston Villa going up Man City and getting spanked 3-1. Expected outcome here. Uh, Joey, anything you want to note? You probably want to discuss Holland here.
Yeah. So
Um,
first of all, it went down exactly how pretty much everyone thought it would. City just completely dominated it. It didn't even look close whatsoever. Honestly, I thought that City probably could have easily gotten 5 or 6 goals through, but they still um, got a decisive victory. But Holland, it doesn't look good. He went out at halftime with an injury, an apparent thigh injury, and um, there hasn't. I haven't actually seen much reporting yet, and I assume they'll have to do some more scans and stuff after the swelling goes down. But um, that could, be pretty bad for him. That being said, it could actually help City going forward. It could have them, return back to their previous normalcy of having a very fluid attacking front rather than having one static target man. But I don't know. We'll see.
you don't lose all those goals and get better.
Well, I'll say that I will take full responsibility for his injury. I picked him up on my fantasy lineup and obviously started him, and it's my fault.
Yeah, well, thank you from the rest of the league. So, we'll go into what will likely be our final segment this week. We had VAR controversies, and we were trying to wait to talk about officiating for later in the season, but this weekend was just bananas. There was mostly due to the offsides issues, which is something that VAR should not be missing at all. I mean, offsides is fairly easy. You pick a pen, you put it on the screen, and you just draw a line, 2 points, and then it's either offside or not offside. So those we had those decisions occur in the Arsenal Brentford and the Crystal Palace Brighton game. And then in the, as Joey has mentioned, in the West Ham Chelsea game, we had a handball in the box situation with Suchek that, you know, apparently VAR did look at it and waved it off. And I think the final, I think the PGMOL, I think they released his, he was breaking his fall. So that was, why that wasn't a handball. Although you've got to ask yourself, why is his hand there? Why is he breaking his fall? Like he was trying to, obviously clear or do something with the ball. So he's falling with purpose. Uh, and then Gallagher's shot didn't help the cause at all. So I don't know if that came into the thinking of the VAR official, though I don't know if it should or shouldn't. But Joey, before we get into the offside ones, do you want to talk about the Chelsea one?
Yeah, one thing that will stick out in most Chelsea fans' minds is immediately after the match, Potter was asked about the you know potential handball, and immediately he was like, "Yeah, I'm fine with it." He's I'm summarizing. He's like, obviously not happy, but it's officiating. Things are gonna go your way, things aren't gonna go your way. Just accept it and move on. That touched some Chelsea fans the wrong way. First of all, the way I said that touched people the wrong way. I guess that's probably not the
I know, I was
great.
thinking like a doll. Show me where he touched you.
Yeah, but no, including myself, I was hoping to see. I wouldn't go like all Mourinho nuclear or something, but just a little more enthusiasm. Like, show some actual displeasure in what happened. Like, from a Chelsea perspective, that was an obvious goal scoring opportunity taken away because we didn't get the pin. So show at least some energy. But a little bit later on, he did go into it a little more and, voice some displeasure and was very sarcastic about it. Like, he's like, oh, that's the greatest save of the day, stuff like that. So for the actual call itself, uh, I don't see how it could be anything other than a handball, and I I don't know how VAR would have taken a look at it that fast. The commentators of the match were, just completely astounded that it was not, that play wasn't stopped to actually look at it. Um, every, you know, you listen to every post match analysis by whatever outlet you want. They all couldn't believe it. They were like, at the very least, VAR needed to stop and look at this, and why it wasn't, couldn't
It
tell you.
was. It was looked at.
No, they're like stopped, like actual stop play to take.
You mean send the official over to the on field monitor?
Well, yeah,
Because VAR looked at it and cleared it, so they
well,
agreed
yeah,
with the
but
official's initial.
they looked at it and
So you
cleared
can't
it.
say VAR didn't look at it because they did.
No, I'm talking about specifically stop play and be like, hold on, because like you there will be times in other matches where VAR will announce down like, we got to look at this or whatever, and then that gives VAR enough time to pull up the replays and all that, and then they'll determine, hey, the on-field official should probably take a
In
second
the
look at this.
background. Yeah, they're doing that in the background.
No, they didn't stop play. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah, they never stop play to look at those things
yes,
unless
they
the
do.
ball
I
goes.
guarantee you they do. Yes, they
No,
do.
it that had been a goal scoring, or someone can fake an injury and like then give them time. But they were playing on, and if it determined that was a penalty, they could have gone back to it. The VAR determined it was nothing. They agreed with the official. That's why they didn't go back to it.
Well, I know, but again, for them, and I know for a fact I've seen them like specifically stop play and um, to for VAR, only VAR to review it, and for them not to do that in a crazy situation like this just blows my mind.
I'll say, I'll be devil's advocate here versus the world. I'm fine with the call as long as it's consistent. Um, if they're going to not call that, then they always need to not call it. Uh, you know, handball is either is or it isn't. Um, so the fact that that call's been made in other games millions of times as a penalty, and now in this game it wasn't. That's what kind of annoys me more than really anything else. Um, so, but the two that are, so that one, there's controversy around that one, and in the scheme of officiating in England, it doesn't look great. Uh, but oh boy, does it really not look good for Lee Mason, um, who was on VAR in the Arsenal Brentford game. So Arsenal Brentford and Crystal Palace Brighton had two VAR offsides incidents. And as you know, they always, draw, from, the furthest forward, and they line up the lines and however they do it, whatever geometry. I don't understand exactly how it works, but it's not that difficult. You pick the point where the pass or the kick was released, and then just draw some lines on some people. So in the Crystal Palace Brighton game, apparently the VAR official drew the lines on the wrong player, which led to a disallowed goal for Brighton. So instead of drawing it on the furthest forward player, I believe he drew it on the one that was not furthest forward, so leading to offside situation. And in the Arsenal Brentford game, it has come out that they were checking for offsides and they didn't even draw the lines. Forgot to draw the lines. Um, so
For that
it
one, did
leaves.
they did they because there were a couple things that happened right up there. There was the potential offsides, and then there was like a potential foul or interference or something. When they were looking at it, I never saw confirmation whether or not they even did a check for offsides there.
The claim is, again, believe it or you don't know what's really happening until these people are mic'd up or they have a camera in that room or wherever they're located. I think they should always be at the stadium. I think sometimes they're not. I think they might have a central control center, but they apparently forgot to draw or didn't draw the lines for offsides. So I don't know how that happens because you know you should have a sort of like checklist when you're in this situation. Okay, here's the things we're going to look for. Okay, is it this? Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? And something I thought we were promised. Now, Joe, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I thought for these offside ones where they draw the lines that they were going to be shown in the stadium.
S
And I'm still not seeing that. Like all I'm seeing is a big scoreboard that says offsides.
yeah,
Granted, we have the TV feed, but even when they show the stadium feed, I'm not seeing that they're showing people in the stadium what is it happening.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that they have like a couple times early in the season, but here lately I definitely haven't seen it displayed on any of the screens. Um, so one thing that I'll never understand about VAR whatsoever are the inconsistencies from something as simple as offsides. So, you know, I mentioned the Super Bowl's going on. There was a, a controversial, minor controversial thing about a receiver caught a pass. He went down with the ball, and to almost everybody, it looked like a catch. And then the NFL's version of VAR took a look at it and decided it was not a catch, that the receiver didn't have control of the ball. So there you have something that's a little more subjective as to like what constitutes as a catch. With offsides, it is very straightforward. Like, you know, is the defender or is the attacker ahead of the defender? Now you're getting situations like when they draw the line, are they including the shoulder? Are they going a little bit down the arm? Are they using the correct defender? Like it shouldn't be like that. VAR was, touted as something that will, first of all, make these things quicker, and second of all, get these things correct. And while a majority, or what I would assume, I don't know the numbers on this, but I would assume that more calls are being correct. But the ones that aren't, like, what the heck? Like this should not be happening. Like I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, especially for something so black and white as offsides. Again, the handball that still needs to go back to the rules of the game. They need to make it much easier to interpret because it's still subjective. But offsides is objective, and I think the only thing I can say for everyone is thank God the semi-automated from the World Cup technology is coming because that worked seemingly pretty well. Um, Granted, there was some like very close ones, but it was quick. It showed you exactly what happened um, to everyone, and it's better than having these old men trying to draw lines on technology they probably don't even understand how to use. So.
Yeah, and coming from it from like a technology perspective, a lot of times the stills that you'll see are very fuzzy because the resolution of these cameras is only like 1080p, and when you have to look at something so granular, oh, so only 1080p, and also most of them are only like 24 or 30 frames per second. So if you're talking about like something as quick as a ball being struck, there are a lot of times where if it's either a 24 or 30 frames per second camera, like that action will happen literally in between the two frames. So there's times where you'll have one still where the player's about to kick the ball, and then the next still is where the ball is coming off the foot. So with just like you know physics, it's sometimes impossible to get a correct call just based on the limitations of the technology that they use. Um, again, just something to that they'll just have to correct if they want to go down this version of R.
I mean, yeah, it is better than the old days where you'd see people clearly offsides and um, you know, goal would be allowed. But it takes something from the game, and it is a little disappointing that we have the technology to, like you said, the frames per second issue. I've seen that many times. I'm like, why are they using these potato um, cameras? Like, the richest league in the world can't get like 8K, and fast motion cameras in stadiums. Like, I don't understand, where's all the money going? Um, you
It's
think
going straight to Todd Bowley's pockets, baby.
Well, you would think that the league could set it up, with a level, playing field, cameras, with good resolution. They're making so much money. If their decisions like this are going to determine, for Arsenal's sake, it might determine at the end of the year if they win the league or not.
I mean,
Yeah,
in case of Brighton, like they're fighting for a spot in the Champions League or Europa League or something. Like these are massive implications for something that should be objective, and it's just not.
yeah, it's weird to me because betting is all over England and is allowed as a sponsor and shirts and all that. Here in the United States, sports betting is probably what got NFL to like fix their you know perceived issues because they had perceived issues, but they're much better than they used to be now. Um, so you would think the sports betting industry would also be like pushing down to get it right because what do you do? Cancel the ticket or nope, you just leave it as it is. So the poor person that was holding the Chelsea 2-1 over West Ham, you know, could have, cashed in for like $5,000. Like, sorry.
Yep.
Uh,
Unfortunate. They need to do better. Oh, one thing I wanted to ask you about this. So, what should be some repercussions from this from the officiating side of things? Like, I
the
do you
easy
think?
one, yeah, yeah. Lee Mason's gone. Like, he
Okay.
makes too many mistakes. Like, he needs to get the hell out of there. Like, he's been horrible for years and years.
Mm-hmm.
He's done. Um, I'm not a fan of moving some of these old refs to VAR, um, especially ones that weren't great on the field anyway. So that's why I'm kind of looking forward to the semi-automated stuff because it is what it is, right? And it seemed to work pretty well,
Mm-hmm.
at the World Cup.
Not
But yeah,
so.
Lee Mason needs. I mean, this is not his first mistake, nor his second, nor his third, nor his fourth, nor his. He's had numerous mistakes, so he needs to. He just say, "Thank you for your service. You're no longer needed."
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people contend that this is a systemic issue, so it shouldn't be something like just fire these people and then it'll get better. But as we've mentioned, the semi-automated VAR, just like that was used in the World Cup, being implemented next season, that should help tremendously. Because you know, in the World Cup, you would get like it would look like fabrics of the jersey calling them offside, but like that's something that will be consistent and that you can work with and is done quickly. Um, that would be way easier to at least get used to than what we have now.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, I'm also never. Joey, I officiated football, and I'm just not a fan of technology. Like, I'd rather add more human official. I'm fine with the human element because it makes it more interesting. Again, as long as you're consistent, you will make mistakes. But they could add additional officials. Like, that's something you could do. But I mean, like the world of baseball is going to like just eventually have no umpires because I forget what it's called. Their technology is just gonna be able to call balls and strikes from the you know um uh wherever it's installed. I can't think of the name right now, but um yeah, it's just I like the human element. I kind of like a little bit of variance and mistakes, like, but I don't like obvious like mistakes that can be prevented. So that's why if you don't have it, then no one can complain.
Yep.
That's another way to look at it.
Yeah, it's just got no matter what, the expectation has to be clear, and there should be some sort of way to um, what do you call it, like grade based on those expectations. And um, in this case of VAR, I would believe that they would need to be more transparent. Like, in the NFL, you could hear the refs or whatever with their reasoning, um, and they will have to justify their calls. So if they want to keep things as is, just make refs have to do that. Make them justify it there while they're at the match or after the match or whatever, so that people can at least get an understanding. And if there's a difference of opinion, so be it. But at least it's known.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So quick update on the Super Bowl. The Chiefs look to be making a comeback. It's now 35-27 in the fourth quarter. It honestly earlier it looked kind of rough because the Chiefs quarterback Mahomes went down awkwardly on an already injured ankle, and I was thinking that the Eagles were going to start running away with it, but hey, it's looking to be a good game. But yeah, I think we are almost at an hour, so I think that might do it for us. What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, we could talk about officiating forever, but
Yeah,
good
cool.
place to end it for this week, and hopefully this upcoming week will have less controversies. But
Oh, I
we'll
know what
see.
we need to do before we leave. Tomorrow's Derby, the Merseyside Derby. Give me a prediction.
Uh, Liverpool 2-0.
All right, I'm going all out chaos, and I'll say I'll do 2-0 the other way.
If you're correct, then Klopp might be fired. That's my prediction.
I
I
with
think I think the fans, like I said with Marsh, eventually the fans will force the hand of the owners. Um, and if they continue to not improve at all, and they lose this in the manner that they lost the Wolves, I don't know if he survives.
yeah, um, it'll be interesting because if he does get the boot, there will be a large segment of the Chelsea fan base that will say like, "Go get Klopp in now," like Potter out, Klopp in. So that would be kind of fun to see on Twitter. And then the other one for us would be if Klopp gets sacked, that would be an obvious target for the U.S. men's national team, and that would be pretty fun.
We'll see. They have to be beat in a manner that is like they didn't even like basically they lost to Wolves. I don't think it's gonna, like I said, I predict them to win. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna happen. If it happens, it's something I'd watch for because I think their fan base will. I just think I think right now you probably have what 10-15% maybe that are like you know, but if they don't show up tomorrow, I expect that number to skyrocket.
Yep, cool. All right, so that'll do it for this week's episode of the Black and Blue Soccer Show with Andrew and Joey. Be sure to email us any questions you may have, anything you would like us to talk about at blackandbluesoccer@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter at blackbluesoccer, Instagram at blackandbluesoccer, and then mention our Discord earlier. Our Discord is open to any listener to join. Come chat with us, talk about all kinds of crazy stuff like weather balloons and UFOs and all that good stuff. Link will be in the description. Join us up and let us know what you think. All right, that's it for this week. See everyone next week.
Yep, take care.